Mr. Trinidad, tell me what scene you on. Do you just like political confusion? You criticizing the way you live, yet you can't produce an alternative. You say you against the power structure, you ain't like the opposition either. But take care you jump out the hot water and end up in the center of the fire. Because you refuse to vote in election, but then you want revolution. You're strongly against communism. You walk out on colonialism. You say Rick William had to go, but who to replace him? You ain't know. So to make a long story short from in front, Trinidadians they really know what they want. My friend, if you don't want democracy, the opposite is guerrilla activity. If you don't want democratic improvement, you have to want a revolutionist government. And yet when Guy Harewood went in the hills with Jennifer Jones, you let them get killed. All you're doing is grinning and skylarking. You come like the ass in the lion's skin, because you say Robinson is a traitor. You say what's than that about Granger. You say Kamal seeking his own interest. You call Millet a Marxist-Leninist. You are ODAC, neither DLP, and you say PNM is only ratchet P. Well, you tying up yourself. I gonna tell you why. Trinidadians just like plenty mama guy. Trinidadian talking black power. It's not wrong for a man to love his culture. Yes, you walk around with your Afro plait and you're dragging alpagat and fatsapat. But although they're rapping about Africa, you're eating roti like if you're born in India. So who you gonna blame when you make your book and end up like a cat on a hot tin roof? Because you say you're going Afro all the way. Let you smile when they bring in Tony May. William say he want to retire. You beg him to stay a little longer. You reject cause act on public order. Now you want it.
I want to officially say a pleasant good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Like your sense of reasoning.
Today being Wednesday,
You
the
want
12th day
you call
of March 2025. I hope each and every one of you guys are doing fine this evening. Whatever constituency, wherever you are throughout the length and breadth of Grenada, Carriacou, and PD Martinique, I want to say a blessed evening to you, man.
You say that you didn't want no dictator, yet you were one fella.
It is another class in session program,
About him,
and again for today,
say he guilty.
our Facebook lovers,
Did he say
we definitely have to get you up to date to the YouTube page,
long ago you
because Facebook
Castro, but now you say the same.
as a social media
Hero.
entity,
Well,
they are actually having problem with the process of going live.
off the wall eventually.
So many persons have been complaining about that, and so we are turning over to the YouTube. It's definitely not going to remain there.
You say
As long as Facebook would fix their issues, we definitely would be on here
to Concosa. You say the
and on Facebook.
young man, yet you run and call back as sports in an hand. But you won't call back until you call disaster, like the colonial days of the slave master.
So go ahead right now and tag somebody. Let them know that we're on, man. Pleasant good evening to each and every one of you guys. Marilyn Ferguson, Annette Mitchell, good evening. Fanny, how you doing? Glenda Robinson, good evening.
Indian Trinidadian.
Each and every one of my followers, I want to say a pleasant good afternoon, man.
They're from the Mahasaba. They're conservative, only talking race. Yet you see so much Douglas all around the place. They say that doesn't need pork for them. How come them and black pudding is such good friend? You're making your own self a puppet show. You might end up just like Rumpelstiltskin. You call Pat Solomon a bashon, yet he's spending your money in London. You say the country's ace-crime fighter is a regular ganja smoker. You call your picture a seditious traitor. Now that same traitor is a union leader. It won't surprise me if you move Malik from death row and make him minister of home affairs tomorrow.
So yes, ladies and gentlemen, some nail-biting calypso that you're hearing in the background there. This one coming out from Maestro. So ladies and gentlemen, this evening definitely is one of the evenings we are going to continue our conversation. We are going to be speaking on issues of the state, and you know, definitely once I'm here, I will try my best and my utmost best to always be as comprehensive as possible in terms of persons being able to understand the whole process of what is being explained. And today I believe I'm really charting for on the course of allowing persons to really understand the reason, because many persons are still asking the reason. Why is it that, you know, Dr. Mitchell and the opposition leader would have walked out and other members would have walked out? And we're going to definitely get into this today with a little bit more explanation being given and touching on other two issues, all right? The New National Party, however, I'll jump into some events that will be happening. The New National Party, they will be having their barbecue luncheon and fundraiser on the 29th of March, yet at River Sally Hard Court from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. Barbecue chicken, barbecue pork, grilled fish. It is definitely going to be available. All meals comes with a selected side portion. There is also an ice cold bar that awaits you. You can call 533-7897 or 415-8008 for more information. Steffo Promotion. Steffo, a pleasant good afternoon to you. We are about the embassy. That is on the 23rd. Fisherman's Hawaiian Boat Ride would be on the 23rd. And that ticket would cost you $75 aboard, as I aforementioned. The embassy boarding time from 1, sailing from 2. Music by Graphic Song, Root Song, Fearless, Kevon, DJ Ice, and Selector Shakim. All right, you can call 419-1663 or 414-5474. Or you can check Sugar Police, Players Bar, or Licks and Bite and Gov to get your tickets, all right? On Easter Saturday, Big Slice Promotion, they will be presenting the bingo raffle and dance that will be taking place at Brownies Hideaway. I actually do have an audio, so the audio would give you more information. All right. Baking and Friends, they will be presenting Hangover, Alcohol, Music, Vibes, and You. That will be on the 30th, yes, of March. $75 aboard the Rum Runner 2. You can call 420-6063 or 417-2147 or 417-2210 for more information and also for your tickets, all right? So if you guys want to be a part of this, you definitely can run a note and be a part of what is definitely happening. Ladies and gentlemen, as I aforementioned, I am basically on the charge today to give a little bit more clarity to, and many persons would have asked, and still they're trying to understand what really happened yesterday at the parliament sitting that would have caused members of the opposition to have walked out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to first take an extract that have been published by the New National Party, and it is available, and I know many persons maybe didn't get a chance to go through Facebook for the day, so I am going to take the opportunity to go through it now, and I'm going to give you more factual information. Yes, more factual information as it relates to what really transpired and how it definitely did transpire, right? So we're definitely going to walk through this, and in doing so, I hope that it brings some form of light to a lot of the things that you guys might be questioning at this stage. Yes. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand the role and function of the Speaker of the House. And I guess in its simple terminology, the Speaker of the House ought to be the referee. Yes? The referee, the official, the person who's given the opportunity to have that final say. Yes, and make that final decisions. The question might be asked why the New National Party protested in Parliament. The New National Party would have protested against the Speaker's unfairness and brazen disregard for parliamentary procedure and undemocratic practices. Right? 1. The agreed order of the presenter was not followed. The Parliament, the government, and the opposition agreed on an order of presenters. The Speaker of the House followed it up until the indecent incident in question. Now, be mindful that it is information that maybe you and I, or I should say that you may not be privy to. But an order was given to the members on the opposition side. And that order, ladies and gentlemen, was the order of speech. The manner in which persons were supposed to speak. Now, in every parliament around the world, or anywhere you go in a parliament, when a speaker is not there, yes, when a speaker is not there, it therefore means that the next or the immediate speaker thereafter will deliberate. In the circumstances of yesterday, it was Dr. Modest, because it was government, opposition, to end the evening. So after Dr. Modest would have concluded, it means that the next speaker would have been the Prime Minister. Because remember, he did not yet deliberate on the topic. Yes? So he would have definitely gone thereafter. Now, after him was supposed to be Dr. Mitchell. So it was the Prime Minister, Dr. Mitchell. And then we have the closure. So let for many of you guys who maybe did not know, this what was supposed to happen. After Dr. Modest would have addressed the debate or the budget, it was the Prime Minister followed by Dr. Mitchell, and then thereafter the closing of the parliament or the debate or the budget. Yes? Remember, when Dr. Modest concluded her speech, both of the representative was not present in the House. Remember what I said earlier. When there is not a member in the House, it is not the Speaker's duty to find out where these persons are. It means that he's going with an order, and the members are aware as it relates to that order. Right? So the Speaker is not supposed to say, okay, where is that person or where is that person? No. You know your order of speaking. Right? So it means that when Dr. Modest completed her speech, the Prime Minister should have been in the House. He ought to have been there. Now, we have seen in the past few days, this is one of the sittings that I have seen the Prime Minister most absent. In all the time that he have been there, and always he would have made himself present to even 30-minute sitting and 15-minute sitting to 2-hour sitting. However, conveniently, the Prime Minister in this year's budget presentation and debate conversation was very much reluctant to sit in the House of Parliament and hear the deliberation from both sides. I don't know how many of you guys observed it. However, as I said, when the completion of Dr. Moles and our deliberation, it means that the Prime Minister was supposed to address. He was supposed to be seated in the House. Yes, the Speaker had no right to recess for nobody. There was an order given. Everybody had an order. Apparently, not apparently, the fact is, the document that the opposition had as it relates to the order of speaking was sent to them by government. So government members, the leader of government business, would have sent an order of speech to the opposition leader and other members of the opposition. Right? So, therefore, it means that everybody knew the order, the Prime Minister included. So, even if the Prime Minister went to relieve himself or he was outside and in a conversation, it means that any member who is in possession of the order could have simply stepped out of the room and simply inquire, where is the Prime Minister? He's up next after Dr. Moles. That was not done. And let's go through this very slowly. That was not done. So hence the reason why it is said the Speaker of the House followed it up until the incident in question. Right? The Speaker followed the standing orders. The Speaker followed the standing order and allowed MP Cornwall to close. Right. We're going to the standing order. Right? Right? Section 40, subsection 1, 5 states that the final speaker should be the minister designated to conclude the debate. And I pause there. It means that the speaker should be the minister designated to conclude the debate. Now, let me say to you, and let's use logical thinking. Would you be, or do you believe Mr. Cornwall would have go ahead and prepare an entire closure of the debate if he was not designated? Let us be realistic. If Mr. Cornwall was not designated, because it goes on to say either the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, or any minister chosen by the Prime Minister. No. The manner in which Mr. Cornwall started to deliberate, ladies and gentlemen, do you believe in your sound mind that he was not the person designated? So, Mr. Cornwall just decided, while sitting in the House of Parliament, he's going to write a speech to close. Because Mr. Cornwall's initial address started by thanking all the members. Why would you have done that? When you were not going to deliberate on your ministry. He started off by thanking members of the House. Most of the time you hear that, ladies and gentlemen, that somebody is thanking everybody. What that mean? It means that there's a closure, things are going unfinished. So he thanked the members for the deliberation, and he started by going on to speak on a point that was brought across by the opposition leader, in which he would have contradicted by stating this is not so. He went on further in his deliberation to present documentation as it relates to what he believes was a false allegation. Now say to me, ladies and gentlemen, why would he have done that if he knew he was not the designated person? Because the section says the final speaker should be the minister designated to be concluded. Go to every one of the other members and ask them whether or not they had prepared a closing argument. Ask them. Ask every one of the other members there whether or not they prepared a closing argument. And if the answer is no, it means that the designated person was given the task to do so. Sense make before book. why would he have prepared, a closing argument if he was not designated to do so? So Mr. Cornwall is a crazy man. The Minister of Finance is a madman. Goes on to say, the Finance Minister, MP Cornwall, was interrupted. The Minister of Finance began speaking, but was called to the Speaker's chair in the mid-speech. One is yet to know what was said there and why what was said. However, he was then allowed to resume speaking, showing clear inconsistency in the Speaker's ruling. So the Speaker called him. He went to the Speaker. Because remember, initially he didn't hear what the Speaker said because he started speaking. And then while speaking, the Speaker said, approach the bench. For what? Heaven, God, and both of them alone not know. Right? However, when the concluded conversation happened, the Speaker or the MP returned to his table and he didn't sit. He continued deliberating, even deliberated longer than when he had commenced. How many of you guys noticed that? He spoke longer, right? When he initially started, he spoke longer. And then the Speaker called an unexplained recess. Let me go back to the point that the Speaker ought not to hold no recess to find out where nobody is. The Speaker need not to call no recess to find out where nobody is. He said he had an unresolved issue and he was going to deal with it. That is what the Speaker said. The Speaker suddenly announced 3 minutes recess. During this break, the Speaker met, and that is the point. And that's the point I want you all to get, because remember, we have on behind the scenes conversation that happened. During the recess, right, the Speaker met with the opposition team and assured them that the Finance Minister would be allowed to continue speaking. Because remember, during that time, at the conclusion of Dr. Modest, it was the PM, then Dr. Mitchell, and then the closing. Right? Now, let me say to you, when that conversation took place, Dr. Mitchell, was asked whether or not he wanted to speak. Dr. Mitchell, who had not yet spoken, agreed to step aside and allow the Finance Minister to conclude because he had already started. So you understand? The Prime Minister didn't speak. Dr. Mitchell didn't speak. The conversation was held with Dr. Mitchell. Realizing that the man had already started speaking, Dr. Mitchell said, okay, you know what? I don't speak already, and I will not speak again, so allow him to speak. Right? Allow him to speak. Remember, the Prime Minister was not there either. And as I aforementioned, if the Prime Minister or any member of the House is not there, the Speaker ought not to go and look for nobody. Right? Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell illegally took over the role of Speaker. Well, that's what we have to say. Because if the Speaker went in the back and spoke with the members and said to them, you know what, look at what would have happened, look at what would have transpired, it means that, this is look at where we are. Dr. Mitchell, who knew he had to speak, he said, well, you know what, allow him to finish. He done there already, let him finish. And the members would have remained in the back there because to them, okay, let Mr. Cornwall finish up what he's doing. When the Parliament resumed, the Prime Minister, who had been absent for most of the debate, ignored Mr. Cornwall. He stood up and announced that he would close the debate. No acknowledgement for Mr. Cornwall, who was already deep into his closing presentation on the debate. This was a direct contradiction of what the Speaker had assured the opposition. So you told, and you see, when persons don't get the first-hand information, it seems as if, okay, what Dr. Mitchell and him did was derogative. But you had a conversation with grown people. You had a conversation with grown men and women, informing them that, hey, this is what is going to happen. So we are going to allow Mr. Cornwall to finish speaking. The members would have relaxed or relapsed and say, okay, well, you know what? It is already there. Recognizing that the strange development, both the leader and the former leader of the opposition objected, but the speaker refused to make the appropriate action. So it is only when the members on the opposition returned into the house, and remember, all he go and look for Mr. Mitchell because he's not in the house. When he came back from the recess, he realized that no member of the opposition was there. Right? He didn't then call a recess again or find out where they are. He allowed the Prime Minister to start speaking. How? So when the opposition members came back into the house, they realized the Prime Minister on the ground, on the floor. No, they are in awe. Like, that is not what was said. And hence the reason why Dr. Mitchell immediately stood his ground. Immediately. Because at the end of the day, Dr. Mitchell knew that the last bit of information disseminated was that the person that will be speaking, would have been the MP for St. Patrick's East. Now the speaker's bias forced opposition process. Because the speaker at that stage, and I don't know how many of you guys got to watch my video today, all this came down to the action of the speaker. Dr. Mitchell returned in ignorance that how is the Prime Minister addressing? When you heard what Dr. Mitchell said, what is going on? What go on there? The speaker disregarded the agreed process and acted in a manner that was clearly biased and in favor of the government. Because we who did not know that conversation take place in the back day, the speaker sounded like, okay, where Dr. Mitchell come out with that? Because that is not what you said. That is not what you said. This is what aggrieved the member for St. George's Northwest. Because when he returned in the house, his expectation of seeing the Minister of Finance closing the debate, there is the Prime Minister deliberating. Now, if it means that they came back in and Mr. Cornwall would have said, you know what, I would have to cease the closure of the debate because the both members are now here and they are supposed to be deliberating. But we cannot have a closure and then an open. Right? So, in fact, the process had to happen. It means that if you were going to allow the Prime Minister to speak, he cannot be closing. He cannot be closing because Mr. Mitchell, the Prime Minister, right? He came in, he had to deliberate on the budget, not close. He had to speak on the budget. He didn't speak as yet. Dr. Mitchell didn't speak as yet. So it means if you were allowing the Prime Minister to speak, it means he wasn't supposed to close. He was supposed to deliberate on the budget and then Dr. Mitchell. But he stand to close when he did not yet even deliberate on the budget. And I remember speaking on something differently yesterday, subjected to that correction. So I thought the Prime Minister would have spoken. So the Prime Minister had to deliberate on the budget. Right? So the closure was about to take place. If you stand down the closure, the Prime Minister is not supposed to close. He's supposed to deliberate on the budget. And after he deliberates, Dr. Mitchell is supposed to deliberate. But Dr. Mitchell would have stood down. Yes? Dr. Mitchell would have stood down. And he stood down on the basis, or he gave leeway, because he thought the closure was taking place by Mr. Cornwall. Now the fact is, this has become a growing trend in the parliament. The opposition view it as yet another serious breach in the parliamentary fairness and left the House of Parliament in protest. The Speaker must remember that the House of Representatives, everyone there is equal. Listen to me, ladies and gentlemen. The Prime Minister cannot, should not, must not dictate the action of the House. If the Prime Minister goes into a courthouse, his position as Prime Minister is null and void to the judgment of the judge or magistrate. He can dictate what happens there. So too is the House of Parliament. The Prime Minister in charge of the Cabinet of Grenada. The people's business takes place in the House of Parliament. It is a House of Representatives. Everybody sitting there did not elect all the members for the government side. As we have seen before, there is an opposition in the House of Parliament. And the representation there ought to be on the basis of the people's business. Not what you feel or what you want or what the Prime Minister feels he should do. Both members were supposed to deliberate. Both members. Neither one deliberated on the budget. One gave way to the mere fact, believing that the process was going to end because there was a closure. Ladies and gentlemen, the New National Party has taken a stance that they condemn, or we have condemned, the Speaker's action and the act of democracy. We demand respect for parliamentary rules and impartiality from the Speaker. We call for the Speaker to be removed to restore fairness and integrity of the Parliament. It's time. This is not mistake number one. And if you speak to members that support, even if you speak to members that support the NDC and is honest supporters, they are telling you the same thing. They are telling you the same thing. You have stepped over a line that I believe that you still believe that you still there on the podium where you would have talked about the hospital and all these things. Again, from day one. From day one, we knew that about you. Let me play the tape for you guys. This tape here, what I'm about to play, is a Speaker dressed or clad in his nice yellow t-shirt, the last election campaign, addressing an issue. The Speaker.
Story, but I have to tell it. When the NDC government was in office, 2008, 2013, the NDC government, with the help of the government of India, opened what was called an ICT Center of Excellence and Innovation. I was placed down there as the managing director. And the center was supposed to make Grenada the showpiece of the Caribbean.
Now this is the Speaker of the House. The today Speaker of the House during the election campaign. That I believe should have been the very first red flag in the state of Grenada. Having the information that we have. But you see, NNP is such a loving party, I don't want to call them. I don't want to call us. But you see that niceness? It does come back and haunt us. That niceness continues to haunt the New National Party. And ever so often, we must realize that if we don't go to the stage of getting really serious, because these people have this concept in their mind as if they are the only political party in Grenada. As we heard, the Prime Minister spoke as to making Grenada only NDC people. And he considered who did not vote for him on the other side. Yeah? Because he always speak like that. And to jot reference, take an excerpt from Sister Linda Straker, where he said in the court, in the House of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, we may be the majority government. We still intend to take care of those constituents who voted for the other side. He liked that word. But you see, in his mind, the intellect that he have is that all who voted for him is who is governing. That is all who is governing. So those who did not vote and those on the other side. He said the other side because, as we point out, we are the government for all Grenadians. The question is asked, why a need for the other side reference? Is the government of Grenada and not the government of a certain group? And a very salient point there. Ladies and gentlemen, if we don't take a stance for the actions of the Speaker of the House, and I believe in the back of his mind, he should do the thing of integrity and step aside. Step aside. We won't tell you go. Do the honorable thing. Do the honorable thing. Because we have proven time and time again. You come back beating your chest about a regulation and an ordinance that you didn't even realize that you went against. You didn't even realize you went against the order. You come back, you beat your chest instead of being a big man and being apologetic about it. It aggrieves me, ladies and gentlemen, to continue to sit aside and listen to what is happening in Grenada and the manner in which it is happening. Persons doesn't respect the democracy. They don't respect the fact that everybody could support who they want to support. Everybody could support a side. They could, everybody could support who they wish to. Fact of the matter is that we continue to go through the budget. The big spending, absolutely no impact. Compared to 2024, government spending increased by 281.6 million. But 207 million of that is just for running the government, not for new projects and services. Recurrent expenditure. Money just spending for the same thing over and over and over. Nothing new. Plane rides. And I remember in the very short closing that the member gave yesterday, he said that anytime or every time the members travel or had to travel is for important businesses. Prime Minister have traveled in excess of how many times? In excess of how many times? And what we have to prove, what we have to show, is next to nothing, ladies and gentlemen. And we ought not to, as I said, continue this. I would like to play this clip right here from our past parliamentary representative for St. George's Northeast, Brother Tobias. It is a clipping from MTV, yes? And I just want you to listen to what he would have said here.
Keep them on the P's and Q's, and if not, because at the end of the day, when you mess with somebody's bread and butter, and they can't. A hungry man is an angry man. It doesn't matter where it comes from, and that is what will matter at the end of the day.
That was former opposition leader Tobias Clement. On Sunday, March 2nd, the National Democratic Congress held a large rally in Beausejour, St. George, drawing hundreds of supporters. On December 15th, 2024, the new National Party hosted its convention at the St. Andrew's Anglican Secondary School. With both political parties actively engaged, Clement emphasized that a nation's politics are deeply tied to the state of its economy.
Well, like everywhere else, every part of the world, the political climate is in almost in disarray, and the politics of every country now hinges on the economy of every country, and people will be satisfied when they could afford to put food on the table and send their children to school and mind themselves. But if it is that we are in a situation where there are a lot of shortcomings, that is what matters. I always remember in 1992, Bill Clinton coined the phrase, "It's the economy, stupid."
He also noted that Grenadians have matured in their democracy, highlighting that election outcomes are determined by the effort and groundwork put in by political parties.
They could jump high, they could jump low. And you have to respect the Grenadian people, because over the past few years, we have seen how the Grenadian people act. I mean, we are a pretty young nation, 51 years, but I think the Grenadian people are very, very mature in the democracy. And so if you do well, they will treat you well. But if you do nonsense, then you know you're out the door.
For MTV News, Troy Gill.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is a factual piece of evidence. It is a factual piece of evidence on the basis that we have seen here in Grenada that the present government believe to themselves that this country solely belongs to them. But as is rightfully said, there have been a maturity in electorates. Some may not be as loud and as outspoken as myself and others. But let me say to you that they are watching. There are those that are not posting. Yes, they're not posting and saying things and saying this and saying that. But they are doing some serious observations. There are persons from a lot of entities sometimes reach out to me and always say, continue doing what you're doing. And just learn a lot from what you're saying. Because the other side is so boastful that the time they would take to educate people, they are more or less bashing them. So they are more boastful than thoughtful. So ever so often, when you see they post something, they immediately would criticize, oh, the past administration, and I'm only using the example now because an individual called me and they said that to me. They said to me, listen to me, I'm fed up. Because ever so often, they do something. It's the past administration didn't do it. And when you look at the groundwork done, and the processes that would have happened, you would realize that it is the past administration who either did the consultation, got the funding, started the process, and as government is continuum, you're just continuing what government would have done. You have not done a major project within 2.5 years. You have kept a balanced economy, as you mentioned. That is expected. We're expecting you to keep a balanced economy because you have a recurring deficit. You continue to spend the same money for the same thing over and over and over again. So if you're going to put in 5 pongi and 5 pongi and 5 pongi and 5 pongi, what you expect? It is going to remain balanced. But that we want to see that extra step outside of the box in health, in youth development, in agriculture, in fisheries. The health of a nation is the wealth of a nation. A country that feeds itself, finances itself. And we are failing in these 4 important areas: fisheries, agriculture, health, and youth development. This is a government that doesn't intend to teach, but ridicule. How are you expecting to move forward without not being able to grow as an individual or individuals? I recall 2 members of the New National Party, when they would have been a part of candidacy, and on conclusion, I think we would have lost in 2008. They went to study, better themselves. What we're realizing now is that educated or not, qualified or not, all that is concerned is that putting money in your pocket. And we are watching a group of persons who are not giving themselves the opportunity to get intellectually inclined with the developing process of politics. The audience will not always be in Grenada. And hence the reason why you see the Prime Minister may have to travel ever so often. Because the fact is, he can't send nobody else. Because the political capacity is from here to there, and all they're concerned about, we in power now. So a lot of them are not taking the time off to educate themselves, uplift themselves. You know how many members? And that's number 10. And a lot of persons in the ministry. Ask how many of them got their masters and their PhD and all other qualifications while the past administration was in office, because they took the time off to educate themselves on the position they are and develop themselves. And the reason why you hear them preach nowadays, oh, I said the NNP still hold position. Because a lot of NDC is not qualified enough to do it. So a lot of them, you're hearing from since Mary had a little lamb, since the clock and church, it was a watch, they're going in SGU. But instead of growing themselves, developing themselves, understanding that the political process is getting newer and newer every day. We are not having talks about war now, but you never know when it's going to come around. Negotiations, processes. But no. You want to be a jefe, you want to sit down in the House of Parliament and laugh and show members bye-bye. Yeah, I'm referring to Ron Redhead. Instead of developing yourself and your processes in understanding politics and becoming a better politician, the Prime Minister had to send you back to school. It's a clear sign that your ability in any form of political ministerial position, you're not qualified for it. So you keep yourself at that position now, 5 years. And next election, you want to go and run again, and the next election, the people not proud enough to say, my parliamentary representative is a minister this. So you're going to be the errand boy forever? Growth, development. There are young politicians among this present team. And when you look at them, you are realizing they had not moved the needle an inch in terms of their political career. All they're concerned about is when they get in the House of Parliament and they get a chance to address persons, is to ridicule the opposition. And that is not governance. That is not governance. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. I have the privilege at this stage, and I'm hoping that she doesn't get mad at me for doing this. I presently have the privilege to work along with parliamentary representative for St. Mark's and the process of public relation and work that have been done. And when I see photographs, documentation, certificates that Dr. Modest have acquired between the years, work done, picture of places, the same kind of thing you see they posting now, drain and buildings and all these things. We had to get presently an external drive. You know the external drive? To put pictures, photographs and things that she would have documented. But she was so humble, she's so humble as an individual. When she did those things, in the back of her mind wasn't to run on Facebook or run places and say, I did this. And hence the reason why you hear a lot of persons now, even within our constituency, and even on the other side, say, she don't do nothing. But she wasn't bossy, as many of them that I'm seeing now. Because I'm saying to you, in the upcoming weeks and days and months, you are going to see posted on social media work that has been done, consultations and places that have gotten things under this particular parliamentary representative. And you would wonder, why is it she was not doing it? It is because she is so humble as an individual, and the process of growth was more mature in her mind, not to show off, was to do what the people would have elected her to do, was to represent. So sometimes even in a conversation now, and she pulling out things, so I don't say, Doc, well, what? Where you get at? Where you get at? And then she would say, she had it so long. Documentation that dates back from private and public entities, regional and international bodies that recognize the individual. See, the other day they had a little thing where they spoke about some climate thing, and everybody posted the minister, Kieran James. Go through Dr. Modest's plaques, China, Russia, Caribbean, women, all kind of thing. And why am I referencing it now? Is to show you that in the back of her mind, as a parliamentary representative, her purpose was representation and not show off. Representation. Who know? No. And then it was reflected on every election day for 23 and odd years. It was reflected on election day because she didn't post. But the persons who she assisted, and they knew that the work that she was doing, on election day they went to the polls and they make sure she remained the parliamentary representative. From a little cook on the side of the road, and Dr. Modest would pass you. And even if it's $2, even if she had to drive home and get a pack of flour for you, she might say she had her cash on me. And she might find her exposing not too much today. She might pelt stone behind me. But I love you. But that is what humility is. You noticed yesterday, even with the departing of the opposition members, she took her time and she left the house. Even the Prime Minister himself could not have even bashed her action. Instead, he wanted to take his seat when she prepared to leave. And she said nothing. She left with integrity and standard. So all of you guys who are bossy now in the House of Parliament and want to beat on your chest on this and that, now that is growth in politics. Being able to be recognized outside of the scope of politics. I'm telling you, every little child, down to the Shotney group in St. Mark's, love and embraces Dr. Modest. This is a typical example of leadership, legacy. When persons go on the other side and talking about, oh, I was the most trusted minister. You ought to be joking that. You ought to be joking that. A lot of the times persons given kudos on the mere fact that they're growing. You ever realize that you met somebody at zero and they start to grow, and so you start to commend them. You know you get better. You know you know better. You done that different. That is what you were. When you came, the other side called you all sort of names. Sounded like you had a speech impediment. And we kept you on the basis that we knew the process of politics is growth. So when we came, how you came, you did not leave that way. So you could stand in the House of Parliament now and invite members to join the other side, because that is where your heart is. Tell them where your education come out, and your political understanding, and your political growth, and your political development. And on whose expenditure was it on the cost of? Go on the other side and beat your chest. Let the people know the truth. That if you want growth in this country as a politician, you need to be a supporter of the New National Party. And you have to sit with the women that are there. What is the standard of women that are there? And we've seen them grow and left. Well, I think you're the only female I really leave, you know. We have seen the growth and the standard they had to keep among the men and women that was representing at the time. So when you have members now not growing, and you can't see the growth, it is because they lack that understanding that you're not going to be there forever. There's going to come a point. There is going to come a point when you would have to move that stick, that yardstick, to show where I'm at, or where I was, to where I'm at. And if you want to see the growth of a politician under the New National Party, ask the dear member, Delma Thomas. Ask her. Ask her how she came. Ask her how she left. Ask her while she was there, what happened? And through what process did she get there? It was no fly-by-night. It was no fly-by-night. So, ladies and gentlemen, this officially brings us to the end of our broadcasting for this week. I hadn't definitely told you guys I would be here all week. Yes, and the other weeks, as I said, little sporting activities and persons calling me to announce, and I am hoping that you guys would have seen that I was transparent. Most of the events that I went to were broadcast live, and you would have heard the lovely voice. Some of you guys will have seen me in person. But I love what I do, people. I love what I do. That's why I do what I do. And if you meet my parents or you meet any school teacher, mine, past teacher, they will tell you one of the things Prince loved to do was talk. At the time, I didn't understand. I was talking excessive because I was young. I was talking and talking, not understanding that the Almighty would have gifted me with that. So what I thought was my downfall was actually my gift. And the Lord was just giving me the opportunity to say, listen to me, you need to work on that gift. Know when to talk, know how to talk, know what to say, when to say, know to talk. You know, and I'm happy, grateful. I could tell any one of you guys, I am no college and university graduate. This is a gift to be able to articulate the way that I do. And it's not boastful. It is me giving God thanks and praise for the gift that He has granted unto me. And I don't just use it here. For those of you who follow my program on the morning on MTV, I've done announcing all over the place. So it's not something that I use just for politics or to have a political conversation. But if I have the opportunity to assist in anyone's intellectual growth, I am happy to do so. You see, what I know, I want you to know. What you know, I want you to share with me. So most of the time, you see, I don't address a topic, even on Facebook. If I don't know a topic, you don't see me post on it. So then we see a video, and I don't post. I remember a guy telling me that the other day, a friend of mine, so you know what I admire about you? Even he was speaking about the incident in Montu with the police officer. And he said, I realized you don't say nothing. ever so often, some things happen, and persons are like, how come I don't hear you? I don't hear you say about that. I don't hear you talk about that. And yesterday I was bombarded with it. I was not going to because I said, I have a platform. You want to hear about it? Come on my platform. Yes? And that is what I want to happen. Be knowledgeable about the subject or the topic that you are deliberating on. People, you can make mistake. I can make a mistake on my program today and come back tomorrow and say, hey, I made a mistake yesterday. There's nothing wrong about that. That is the maturity. That is the growth. That is development. That is how you grow. That is how you understand. That is where you move from point A to point B. I started this by a tree by Mount Cinnamon after working in Mount Cinnamon a day and I was going home. This started there. 2 years later, I have a following of close to 1,500 persons on my YouTube subscription. Others might view. Over on Facebook, I have over 5,000 persons. It is me being boastful? No. It is me being grateful. On the fact that persons are acknowledging that I can give a listening ear. The fact that they can say, that young man song okay. Many times, persons stop me that support the other side and say, I could listen to your program now because you don't bias like them others. I don't know who others it does be talking about. There are persons who have met me and say, I wouldn't listen to that particular program, although I'm supporting that side. But I like the way you speak. You just make me understand things. And I'm gifted and grateful for that. So ladies and gentlemen, as we go through another few days until next Monday, I pray that you guys stay safe, stay blessed, stay prayed up. A lot of things are happening in and around us, and we ought to be able to, at this stage, understand that our lives are important and we ought to protect ourselves. So, without further ado, I want to say thank you so very much for giving me a listening ear. I want to end with 2 ads this evening to the persons out there in New York. Oh Lord, the tears alone that can beat me right now. I so wanted to be in New York this weekend. I was actually supposed to come up on Thursday, but however, I had to, make certain changes due to, something that would have come up. But however, God's grace, we're definitely going to see again before the year end, and definitely will be before the first half of the year. I'm hoping that you guys will have something very nicely prepared for me when I get up there. Yeah, the last time I came up there, it was, not for the winter though. For the winter, I definitely didn't want to go nowhere outside. It was too cold. Yeah, but I'm trying to gauge that when I'm up there, it's not that cold, so I would be able to come out like I did during my summer visit. All right. So thank you guys so very much. Don't forget this weekend you can check out New Face Promotion and be a part of that one. All right. So Small Face, big up yourself, man. Neil, every day you and the entire team, the entire family. God's blessings to you. I want to extend all the blessings to everyone and my entire New National Party friends and family. Again, let me just extend a wonderful good evening to my wonderful, wonderful dad. I love you so, so much. God's blessings to you. It is always a pleasure to always think about you and knowing how hard you still work. I'm hoping that Mommy, Deborah Lee is rubbing your back and making sure. I saw today she just went and she was videotaping you cutting bread, coconut. Yeah, she's not getting anything done. But however, this is the role of a wife, to be supportive. And I want to say thank you so very much, Deborah Lee, every day, yes, for continuing to, be part of my dad's life, keeping him young and agile as he is, all right? So thank you so very much. Have a blessed day. We're going to catch you right back here again tomorrow, God's willing.
21 years of greatness, and this year won't be any different as New Face Promotion presents Revo Dance 21, going down Saturday 15th March at the Caribbean Breeze, 176 Belmont Avenue. Doors open at 10 p.m. From Grenada, Select a Beast, and Dr. Dre from Power 95. Look out for Team Greens from Montreal, Canada, Queen the Fire, Naughty Vibes, and One Drop. Advanced early bird tickets cost $45 before February 15th, $50 after. More at the door. Get your tickets now from Pierre de Barber, 1055 Rutland Road, West Cuisine, Clarkson, 916 Clarkson Avenue, or Spice Up Market, 899 Clarkson Avenue. Tables and birthday packages are available. Zelle or Cash App accepted. For more info, call 347-304-5453. So on Saturday, March 15, get ready for an unforgettable night. It's Revo Dance 21.
On April the 19th, Big Slice Promotions presents Easter Weekend Massive Bingo, Raffle and Dance, where Brownie's Hideaway Willis. Grab your posse and your ride. We are headed to the Brownie's Hideaway. Doors open 6:30 p.m. Stand a chance to win a smart TV in our raffle and a jackpot of $2,500. Bingo tickets $25, raffle tickets $20, and dance $10. Carib and Stag Happy Hour free for $12 throughout the bingo. Music supplied by Fishman Sound System, your DJ Smiley and Fishman Jr. Easter weekend will be lit. Saturday, April 19th, Brownie's Hideaway, bingo, raffle, and dance. Be there.
I say she drinking water like that, and she barely do as she say. Money, I don't really care.
Western Rollins. Coming to do a song called JM. Make some noise for Go!
You make teeth. Since Wednesday night, I'm feeling so happy. Since the charge Monday, I feel like if I win the lottery, I could brag and boast, cause all of you know I am the prophet in Kaiso. Just last year I did tell all you, they woulda look up his backside for true. These people thief all the money, they vacuum the whole treasury. So if all you're against corrupt thing, tell your voice, let me hear you sing. Panday, the jail is waiting. Panday, all your teeth, enough. Corruption in US is too very sick that already. Your father call us next to go. So we abandon ship. We not staying on it. And very slow. Panday no. In the jail you have to go. You big thief. If your little child come home from school spotting a diamond, you ought to ask the child, where you get that from? And if you will do that and wait until the police come, then the police will carry the whole family down. It doesn't lie too much, but they be afraid to say it. Since when you know that Oma work in some way, but you feel that niggas stupidity, shut the dancers don't work for that kind of money. My predictions does always come to pass. I know they'll lock up you.